Okay, now we move on to the editor's code of practice, and it's quite important you get it right. So there are 14 parts to the editor's code of practice, of which I will put a link below, and essentially it's just being ethical. It's essentially making sure that people are being responsible journalists and anything they produce is a product of responsible journalism. Particularly the part on confidential sources I'll just bring up. If you work for Forge, I'm the managing editor of Forge Press and the website, and confidential sources must, if you have someone who's giving you something in confidence or they want to remain anonymous, I will be the person who will need to know, and if you're a student at another university, your managing editor or editor may need to know, just to kind of weigh up, is this source a credible source? Because if they're not a credible source, then it could present some problems, particularly with defamation. Well, actually, if they're not that credible, should we really be printing what they're saying? Because it might get us in trouble. So I'll put a link in the description, and there's many more. Yeah, I'll put a link in the description, and you can read that at your leisure. We'll move on to the NUJ Code of Conduct. So for Forge Media, we are bound constitutionally by the NUJ Code of Conduct, which I personally think is a good thing. We have to be ethical journalists, and I think it's a good initiative to go by. So this is a lot of text, I do very much appreciate, but essentially it's upholding and defending the principle of media freedom, ensuring that everything's accurate. If you have made a mistake or it's a harmful inaccuracy, to correct it. Differentiate between fact and opinion. It's quite important, particularly with truth and honest opinion defences. You want to make sure you differentiate between factual allegations and your own personal opinion. Obtaining materials by honest methods. Obviously coming into privacy and not intruding into people's private lives, and particularly when there's a grief such as a death or a suicide. Protecting the identity of your sources, obviously up until the point where your editor or your managing editor may need to know, just to be able to weigh up their suitability. Resisting threats or intimidation. Producing no material is likely to be used as grounds for discrimination. Does not endorse products unless it says here, save for the promotion of his or her own work by the medium of which they are employed. And particularly when it comes to children, my advice is try not to involve children at all, but the NUJ say a journalist should normally seek the consent of an appropriate adult when interviewing or photographing a child for a story about his or her welfare. And finally, avoiding plagiarism. And the plagiarism is kind of an interesting point there. Whilst it's okay to kind of lift some of the ideas out of stories, actually plagiarising the stories is obviously not